Hi, welcome back. This is the fourth chapter in the Spring Boot tutorial series. In this chapter, we will be creating a new Android application that will work with the Spring Boot server. Regarding our server, so far we have created the new server, configured it to connect to the MySQL database, and we have configured the REST API. So we will be making use of the REST API from our Android client application that we are going to develop today. So I will show you a demo of what we are going to do in this chapter. So let me take my phone, and here you can see that there is a name, branch and location that you can give in this form. So this is an employee creation form, and you can give this data, and when you press on the save employee button, the form data will be taken and sent to the server. Then the server will save it. So we will be making use of the post endpoint that we have created for the server in the previous chapters. So we will send an HTTP post request and the server will save the employee. So regarding the extra libraries, we will be using a well-known HTTP library called Retrofit, and we will make use of that to send the post request to our server from our Android application. So without further ado, let's get started. So let us start our Android project. We will be creating a new project from scratch. So let us do that first. I have the Android Studio opened right here, and let us create a new project. So clicking on new project and going here, I can choose like should I create an activity with a basic activity or anything. For our project, we'll be using an empty activity. So just click on the empty activity, and here we can give the project name and descriptions. So here, let us say we are making a Spring client, and the package name is fine, Spring client, and here we can set up the minimum required SDK. So it can be anything as per your convenience. If we set the minimum SDK to API 26, then 82% of all the devices out there that are running Android will be supported. So for now, let us use Android 8, and those are the minimum configuration. Make sure that you leave this unchecked, because this is for legacy support to older versions of Android SDK, Android libraries. We are not using that. So just give these values and press on finish, and it will create a new project for us. It will take a little bit of time for the build to complete. So in the meantime, let us talk about the library that we want to use for HTTP communication. So in the last three chapters, we have developed our server. Our server is now capable of receiving new employees for saving. Like, we can submit a new employee information into the server and it will be saved. There is also an API for getting all the employees back. So in this chapter, we will be creating a form using the Android XML. So it will be basic form, and when a button is pressed, the information will be saved into the server. So that is what we are going to do. Okay, so for regarding the library, we will be using the retrofit, and to add that, we need to go and search in the Maven repository. So we need to add two dependencies. The first one is the retrofit library itself, and this is the information that we want to add into the Gradle file. Also, we need to use the converter JSON for the retrofit library. That is because, as we have seen in the previous chapters, we are getting the data in the JSON format, and we are also posting the data in the JSON format. So we need an adapter or a converter so that the request and response can be easily converted between and to JSON. So that is why we are using this converter JSON library. So let's go ahead and add these two ones. This is for the actual library itself. So we will go into the Gradle scripts, build.gradle, and here we will add the retrofit library, the main library, and we need the additional JSON converter so that we can communicate in JSON. So we will copy this one, and I will put it in here. So these are the two dependencies we want to add into our project. So retrofit and converter JSON. Let us build our project. Okay, now our building is complete. Okay, now we need to do some configuration in our project. The first thing that we want to add is the employee model, because we will be working with the employee object and employee class, and we will be using that for sending and retrieving the employee information. So let us go ahead and copy paste the employee model from our server. So if we go into our server code that we have worked on the last 3 chapters, you can see that we have the employee model here, and we will just copy it, Control C, and paste into our project. So here let us create a package called model and paste our employee object in that. We don't want this identity annotation because it was added in Spring Boot for considering it as a database object. As far as the Android is concerned, we are not using any database locally. We are just getting data from the server. Okay, so employee model is good. Now we have the employee model. Now the next thing that we need is the retrofit HTTP library initialization. So I mean, in order to use the retrofit library for getting and saving data, we need to first initialize it. So let us create another package here. Let us maybe name it retrofit, and then let us create a class there. So retrofit service. Let us name it as retrofit service, and we will do everything related to the retrofit retrofit library configuration here in this class. So first thing, of course, we need is a retrofit object. So retrofit. So we'll be initializing this one. So whenever this class is initialized, we need to create an object for the retrofit. So let us add the initialization code into the constructor of this class. So when this object will be created, we will call the initialize retrofit function, and within the initialize retrofit function we need to initialize the retrofit. So we'll be using retrofit builder here. So retrofit dot, and there is a builder function available, builder class available. So we'll be using this builder, and we need to set up something base URL. Sorry, we need to give a new retrofit builder. Then here we need to give 3 things. The first thing is the URL of the server, because as you know, we are communicating over the network to the server. Our server and our app will be running in should be running in the same network, like they should be connected to the same network, and so that they can communicate. And here what we need to do is to give the address of our server. So the address of our server is going to be the IP address of the server where the Spring Boot application is running. Okay, so in order to get the IP address, let us take the command prompt. So let me open the command prompt here, and if you search for ipconfig, we will get the IP address of our system. In my system, I am currently using a Wi-Fi connection, so the IP address is 192.168.0.236. So I will copy it here, then I will paste it here. Then we need to specify the port. So in the last chapters we have mentioned that our server is always running in the port 9000. You can still see it here, it is running in the 9000 port. 9000 port, so we will give that 9000 port here. So we have specified the base URL. The next thing that we want to consider is add converter factory. So we need a converter factory because we are using JSON schema for the communication, and we have included the library here for JSON, right? We have, for the JSON support, we have added the JSON library, which is capable of providing JSON support. So here you can add JSON serializer, JSON converter. So here it should be JSON converter factory dot create, and here we need to create a JSON object, so Google JSON. So that is also given. So that is the bare minimum configuration. You can add more configuration like HTTP client, etc. can be configured, but since it is not really required for our this tutorial, I am not diving deep into the other functions that are available here, so we will just call the build option here. So basically we have given two major things. First one is like we have specified that it should use this URL. Then we have specified that we need JSON, and for that we will be using the JSON library, JSON serializer. It is from Google actually, so we'll be adding that. So the retrofit initialization will be complete, and with this one, so it whenever we create a new class object of this class, it will be created. Then we will give like a get retrofit for later, like we will be using this class and this function later. Okay, so that is fine. So regarding the retrofit, we have given the retrofit service. Now the next thing that we want to do is to specify the API structure. Like you know that in our server in the last chapters we have configured the controllers. We have added employee/get_all for getting all the employees, and we have added employee/save option for saving new employee. Now we need to specify these in our Android project so that we can use those APIs from the Android client, Android app. So for that, we need to create an interface. Okay, so I will call this as employee API because it is an API, and we are using the services from that API. Okay, so within the employee API, we need to specify our two requests. So the first one is like @get, because we are using get request for getting all the employees from the server. And here you need to put it in like this, like call, then list of employee, like what data we are getting from the server after the call, after the from the API. So the call should be imported from retrofit too, so we are using that like that. Then for the function name, you can give any function name just like we did before. So let's say get all employees, and here in the get annotation you need to specify the URL. So for getting an employee, we are using the endpoint /employee/get_all, and that will give us all the employees. So here we have mentioned that everything actually, like we are not giving any parameters, like any values to the API, but we are getting all the employees as a list, and the API is at employee/get_all. And here, rather than using a class, we should use an interface, because that is how the retrofit works. So we have specified the first API. The second entry that we have, second endpoint we have, is for saving a new employee, and that is what we are covering in this chapter. So that will be a post request, because in the server we have accepting it as a post request at the /employee/save URL. So we will give that here /save. And when saving an employee, we will get an employee object back, as well as we have to send an employee object for saving. So we need to specify them here. So rather than getting a list of employees, we'll be getting one employee object back, and here we need to change the function, and here we need to use the constructor called @body. So @body annotation is used for specifying that this parameter is going to be a post body. So when we send an employee object, it will be considered as the body of this post request, and it will be sent into the API to the server for saving. And once it is saved, we will get an employee object back. So if you still have confusion on this, don't worry. We will be like working on this entire chapter, and you will get it more clear as soon as we finish our GUI and actually use this function in our code. Okay, so now our structure is set. Next part is the easy part, like we will design the form so that we can read input like the name, branch, and location for the employee, so that we can save the employee. Okay, so coming back to the main activity here, when we created the project, this class was automatically created, and here we have the sample like XML file. So we need to design this. We need to design a form with the 3 text fields and a button so that we can send data. This is up to you. Like if you want to skip this part in this tutorial, you can do that. Like I will be doing some GUI creation here. You can do drag and drop actually, but I prefer using the XML coding directly so that we will have more control. So let me do that just quickly. So I am not explaining what I am doing exactly here because it is not in the scope of this chapter. If you would like to learn more about like this Android GUI designing part, please let me know. I will create a tutorial for that one later. So here I am doing that quickly. So instead of having a constraint layout, I am using a relative layout so that I can work with things easily. And we need 3 text fields. The first text field is for name. So text input, yeah. So I am going to use text input edit text option for reading. It is from the Google Material Design Library, which is a good looking component. So I will use like mesh parent wrap content, okay, like this. And here I need to give a hint. So the hint I will give name, so that a name section will be shown there. Extract string resource, form name, yeah. Okay, so we'll give that a name like that. Then we also need to specify like a padding or a margin. So padding maybe 25 dp. Okay, so it will have a padding with the edges. And we need to give an ID here so that we can reference this component in the code easily. So form, what name should I give? So form text field name, yeah, so that should be fine. Okay, now we have the option for inputting name. We need to repeat this for branch and location because you know that in our employee database we have location and branch. So let us do that. So form name is there. Here I will add one more entry, branch, then we need location, so form location. So we need 3 fields, form name, form branch, then we need one more, form location. Okay, then here we have text field. Here we need to give unique ID. So here again I will give text field location, text field branch, right? Branch, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so we have 3 text fields. Now this is like on top of each other, so we need to stack them vertically. So we'll use a linear layout, mesh parent, wrap content, orientation vertical, then we will add it here. So now you can see that we have these 3 components properly aligned, and we need to set up some margin so that like the distance between these 2 items can be like greater than what is there right now. So I will use a margin bottom, maybe 15 dp is fine. No, 15 dp is very high. Like let us set to 5 dp, 5 dp, 5 dp. So now we have the 3 text fields, and here we can give the input. The next thing that we need is a button, so that when the button is pressed, we will read the data from these text fields and send it into the server for saving, right? So let me add a button. So there is a material button. I remember in the, yeah, here there is a material button. It is a new component in the Google Material Design Library. So it is automatically available. You don't have to add any complicated libraries. I mean, we didn't add any extra special libraries. So I need a mesh parent wrap content button. Yes, I need to align it in. I want this button in the very bottom. So align parent bottom true. Yeah, we need to give a text for the button, right? So we will give save employee, and we need to convert it as a string resource. Otherwise, it will say like, yeah, please do that. Save employee. So let me name it like button save employee. Okay, now we have the button as well. We need to give an ID for the button so that we can reference the button from the program. So button form button save. So I will name it like that. Now we need to make the button a little bit bigger. So regarding the height, we need, let us give a minimum height of maybe 60 dp. Yeah, now the button also looks good. Now we have our form ready. It is not that good looking, we will optimize it later, but we have the basic structure ready. Now we need to add this component into our program so that we can reference them. So so here let us do it. Like first thing that we need to do is to write a function. So initialize components. So I will just write a function called initialize components, and here we need to specify. So we can call find view by id and find the components. So we have a text field called name, which is the most important one here. So the type of that component is edit text, input edit text. So we will use that. So if you are new to Android, what this will does is like we can actually get this text field here in the code. Now if we want to get like what is typed into that text field, we can call like input edit text dot get text, which will return what is given in that text field. So it is relatively easy, but if you are new to Android, it will be a little bit confusing, but don't worry, we will handle that. So we have three text fields, right? We have name, branch, and the location. So we will add three of them. Location. Now we have one more component, that is our button, right? Material button. So we will also access that in the code. So material button save. So we have these four components. So what we want to do next is like when the button save is pressed, it is clicked, we need to read name, branch, location from these three text fields and send it to the server so that the server can save it. So that is what we want to do. So we will go let us add that. So button save dot set on click listener, which means whenever a click action is performed on the button, we need to read three values. So the first value that we need is name. So we will get it from like this. So input edit text, get text to string, like that. Okay, so we will get the text like that for the name. Then for the so here it is showing a warning because this get text could be null. So one of the approaches to work around that is like, I mean here if you look into the warning, it will say that to string may produce null pointer exception, but because sometimes the get text can be null. So what we can do is like yeah, we have multiple options, but I don't want to make it complicated as well. So for now, let me just use string dot value of. So that will never cause null pointer exception. So we will wrap these things around like that. So name will be read from the input edit text name, input edit text name. Then from the branch text field, we will read branch. Then from the edit location text field, we will read the location. And we need to send it to the API. I mean, send it to the server through the API. So let us see how we can do that. So the save function takes an employee object. So we need to create an employee object first. So employee equals new employee. Then we will set like employee.set name, and the name will be from the top. Employee.set branch, the branch will be from the top. Employee.set location, and we will read the location from the top. So we read these three values from the text field, we set it into the employee object, and now we need to send it. So in order to send this object through the network, we need to use retrofit. So we will use the class we have created here, retrofit service. So we will use retrofit service, then get retrofit option. Okay, so here let me create a retrofit service object here. So retrofit service equal to new retrofit service. We create an object here and when that is so when the button is clicked, we need to get the retrofit and create an API. So it is actually better to do this on top of the on click listener. Otherwise, whenever the button is clicked, this will be repeated again and again and again, so it is not that efficient. So here on the top, we will do this. So let profit service get profit, then we need to give the API interface here. So employee API dot class will be given, and that interface will be converted into an object or an instance by the retrofit service. So here, using the employee API object, we can actually save the employee to the server. So here we will call the save function and include the employee, and then we need to use the function called enqueue, and it will. So the reason why there is an enqueue function is because sending data through the network can take some time, so the application should not like be unresponsive or anything while that happens. But because, as you know, sending anything over the network or the internet or anything over the network can take some time, because if you have a 3G connection or a 4G connection, it is going to be slow. If your Wi-Fi is congested, it is going to be slow. So it can take only maybe a couple of milliseconds in some case. It can take up to seconds or minutes in some case. So it can vary greatly based on your internet connection. So it cannot be, technically it cannot be running on the main thread. So if you don't understand that, that means like you can't wait for the you can't like stop everything and just wait for the API to complete this task. You have to do it asynchronously. So we will use the enqueue function and sorry, enqueue function, and here we can actually add a callback. So what happens here is we will request for saving the employee, and when the save is failed, this on failure function will be called. So if it is failed, we will show a message called toast dot show a message to the customer, sorry, the user, saying that save failed. So because in case the saving fails, it will be shown here. In case it was a success, like if it got successfully saved, then we will show like save finished, save successful. So we will show that save was successful. So we have these two outcomes that can happen from the save option. Like it can it could be successful or it could be a failure. So in both cases we will show this. In case it is a failure, we need to like investigate further, like why it failed and why it failed and how we can fix that. So we, in case of failure, we actually need to include a log. So logger dot get logger, then we will just use the normal logging. So here level dot warning. So it is just a error message that we can investigate later, because trust me, there is one error that is going to happen when we are trying to save this, and we will have to fix it. So main activity dot class dot get name, then we will show message like error occurred, and here we will pass the object probe. Okay, so I will just recap through the class. We have accessed all the text field components. We have added the retrofit service. We have added what should happen when the button is clicked. Now we need to do something that we haven't done already. First of all, in order to use this like internet or network call or network access, we need to give permission to our app for the network access and internet access. So for that, we need to add two permissions, and let me add that permissions here. So here we have to specify like a user's permission, and it requires internet permission. Also, it requires permission to access the network state. So these two permission must be given. So since we have given the internet option, so permission, now everything should be fine. So let us try running our emulator so that we can test this. Let us wait until the emulator is ready and started. Okay, now our app is started. You can see that we have the save employee button and we have option for entering name, branch and location. So let us go ahead and give some sample data. So name, I will just give genuine code, branch 0, location 0. And if I click on the save employee, you can see that we are getting a save failed message because something went wrong. So we need to investigate like what is the problem here. So if we go into the logcat section, we can actually see what like all the logs we can see in here. So here we have mentioned like if it is a say if it is a failure, then we will say error occurred. So you can actually search here for error occurred, and when you do that, you can see that there is an error called clear text communication to is not permitted because of security policy. So what that means is in currently this year is 2022, and everything should be HTTPS, like every communication should be over a network that is secure. But since we are doing this as a like a sample project right now, we haven't configured any HTTPS or the TLS certificates, SSL certificate and all. So that is why this is issue is shown. So in order to stop it, like in order to ignore that error, we need to give an option here that will be allow clear text traffic or uses clear text traffic, and we need to set that as true. So here we are explicitly saying that yeah, we are aware that our communication is happening through HTTP and not HTTPS, and that is okay. So you have to give that in the Android manifest.xml file. Now let us run our app again and give values here. So here I will give, let's say, genuine coder, then branch CSC, location building 0. So we give it like that and click on the save employee button, and you can see that save is successful. Guys, we successfully read the data and saved into our server. Now let us confirm this. We need to confirm whether what we have done is working. So I will go into our MySQL database and execute the query, and you can see that the genuine coder building 0 CSC is now saved into the server. So it is added into the server. So it went through the post request, it was received in the server, then it got saved into the MySQL workbench. Let us add one more like employee. So let's say what name should I give? Martha. Then let's give security, but then building 500. So if we give something like that and save the employee, then go into the MySQL table, and you can see that Martha building 500 security is now. So that's it, guys. That's the main content of this chapter. We have successfully created a new Android project. We have created a form, and we have also successfully sent the form content through the network through a post request and saved into our database. So in the next chapter, we'll be creating a view for seeing all the customers using the GET request. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.